Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Anissa and today we're making a really delicious rice pilaf. This is perfect served with chicken skewers or kebabs or a full roast spicy chicken, and it has just been one of my favourite go-to rice recipes at the moment. So let's just get started. I've got my pan on a medium heat and I'm adding a mix of both butter and ghee. You can of course just use butter if that's all you have. And we're going to let that melt. When your butter is sizzling nicely, we're going to add 2 medium onions to our pot. And we're going to let that fry until it's becoming a nice golden and just starting to crisp up a little. This isn't a low-calorie recipe by any means. It is going to use a lot of butter and fat within this, but it's a special rice and it's something I don't make often, so I'm happy to indulge. When your onions have browned a little and they're getting nice and crispy, you're going to remove them with a slotted spoon or a spatula and put them aside into a plate. Try not to take too much butter with it. Leave some of it in the pan because we're going to use that for our carrots. Now we're going to melt yet more butter or ghee into our pan. Nobody said this was going to be a healthy recipe. And we're going to add 300 grams of grated carrot. And we're going to fry this off the same as we did with the onions until they reduce and they're starting to pick up a little colour. Make sure you stir them occasionally or quite regularly. You want it to cook quite evenly. When your carrot has reduced and it's starting to fry nicely and getting a little colour to it, you're going to take out around a quarter of that carrot, put it aside, and then you're going to add around 3/4 of that onion, or maybe half of those onions that you cooked earlier, back into your pan, like so. Now we're going to add our seasonings. In this cup I have 4 fresh cloves of garlic, around medium-sized cloves, a teaspoon and a half of salt, half a teaspoon black pepper, 1 teaspoon ground cumin, 1 teaspoon ground turmeric. And we're going to let that fry with our onions and carrots for around 30 seconds to a minute until those start smelling really fragrant. I'm also going to add 1 small bay leaf and just give that the occasional stir. Now I'm going to add my rice. I'm using 2.5 cups of basmati rice, and I made sure I washed it really thoroughly. You have to make sure you give your rice a really good wash. Get as much of that starch off as possible, and that way your rice is going to be much fluffier. And you're going to mix that in all those seasonings and fry it off for around 3 to 4 minutes on a good medium heat. I'm also adding a small handful of sultanas. Dried apricots also works really well, raisins. And now I'm going to add my liquids. I like to use homemade chicken stock for my rice. I made that by boiling some chicken bones, including wingtips, chicken skin, chicken thighs and a backbone of a chicken. I had mine boiling in a slow cooker on a low heat for around 12 hours. You can let yours simmer on a low heat on the stovetop in a pot. Just add as much liquid as you would normally use for your rice. So if you're using 2 cups of rice, boil 4 cups of water. And then I add in just an extra cup to take into account any water that burns off. And you end up with this really lovely looking stock, like so. It looks cloudy, it's homemade, there's no additional salt, and it's very easy to make. You can use water, but actually no, don't use water. Use chicken stock, it makes it taste so much better. Water is fine. And you're going to pour in, I had plenty of stock, so I'm pouring in plenty of that. And you're going to add enough stock to both cover your rice and leave a little bit of extra. Now, because I soaked my rice for a couple hours, I won't need as much liquid, so I'm not adding too much extra. But as it cooks, if I need more, I will add more. And we're going to give that a quick stir, being careful not to break up the rice, and we're going to bring this to a boil. I just wanted to mention quickly, before you bring it to a boil, give that stock a taste for seasoning really quickly. If it should taste just slightly salty, and that way you know the salt is right when you add your rice. When you've brought your rice to a boil, reduce it to a very low simmer, cover it and let that cook for around 20 to 25 minutes or until that rice is really fluffy and soft. After around 20 minutes, check your rice. If it's fully cooked through and it's nice and tender, it should still be fluffy, then you can turn off the heat. And we're just going to sprinkle on the remainder of those onions and fried carrots that we had from earlier. That butter is going to help melt into the top of that rice. So we're going to sprinkle that all around. Then we're going to sprinkle some more sultanas or dried fruit, any that you like, on top. And I'm sprinkling some cashew nuts. Toasted almonds also work really nicely with this. And what we're going to do is put that lid back on and leave it to just finish steaming off the gas for another 10 minutes up until those nuts have really softened, the sultanas are lovely and soft, and all the butter in those fried carrots and onions have melted back into the rice. And that's all there is to it to make this really delicious rice. When that has all cooked together and it's warmed through, we're going to pile it onto our serving dish. Try not to break up your rice too much. Just gently take out little spoons and try to mix all that carrot that was sat on the top and those golden onions back into the rice. And you can just see how delicious and fluffy those grains are. I really love this recipe. I feel like it's so tasty and it always goes down really well. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the recipe, please do leave a like, subscribe, click that notification bell, and I'll hopefully upload more soon.